It is an illusion.
I can't tell the difference between my waking life and dreams.
You should have known this day was coming.
None of you are safe.
Face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Asgardian News Network. Today, we are going to be breaking down Moon Knight with the announcement that a series is coming possibly in early 2022. Let's figure out exactly who Moon Knight is. So, long story short, Moon Knight is Marvel's version of Batman, who has dissociative personality disorder and maybe is the living entity of a god. The reason I say maybe is because there is some serious debate over whether he is or is not the living entity of the god. Moon Knight started as a villain in the comic book series Werewolf by Night, which is confirmed to come next Halloween as its own little special Halloween series. Whether it's going to be a movie or a short series, we're not really sure yet, but it's going to be interesting to see how Moon Knight is going to tie into there because he actually started as the villain in Werewolf by Night. And he was never meant to be a main character or anything, but he was so popular that fans just demanded more and more of Moon Knight. So when they came out with another series, they needed to make him an anti-hero. Again, very similar to Deadpool and DC's Black Adam. He is going to be extremely violent, and that's why he gets the anti-hero name tag instead of, being a Marvel hero. And may or may not have the powers of the moon god Kanchu. The may or may not is because it's a serious debate whether he has those powers or not, but we'll get into that just a little bit later. His main personality is Mark Spector, okay? Mark was raised by an Orthodox Jew who fled his country to get rid of Hitler's reign. Now, Mark looks at his father as weak and a coward because instead of fighting for his country, he fled. So instead, Mark decides he's going to become a Marine who ends up working for the CIA. He actually ends up as a mercenary. He is such a talented mercenary that he actually beat Deadpool in hand-to-hand combat at one point. Oh, and did I mention that he's a world champion boxer as well? While on a soldier's assignment in Sudan, Spector witnessed the murder of archaeologist Dr. Peter Allrun at the hands of his first-in-command, Raul Bushman, a noted terrorist mercenary. Raul's behavior absolutely horrified Spector, so he grabs Peter's daughter and gets her to safety before she could fall into the same hands of fate that her father did. Now, the second encounter with Raul and Spector doesn't go quite as well, leaving the soon-to-be Moon Knight declared dead in the tomb of the pharaoh Seti III, until the statue of Kanchu reanimates Spector with the vengeance of his light. It is said that Kanchu made a deal with Spector to save his life as long as Kanchu was allowed to use Spector as the living entity of the god himself. Now, who is Kanchu? Kanchu is the god of travelers, represented in 4 archetypes: the Pathfinder, the Embracer, the Defender, and the Watcher. Depending on the comic book series that we're talking about, Kanchu has empowered Spector, depowered him, imprisoned him, and even used him to rewrite history to favor Moon Knight himself, Kanchu. Kanchu is represented as the god of the moon. He's an Egyptian god, but really, he actually is a elder god who came to Earth during the ancient Egyptian times, and he just kind of blended in with the other gods and pretended to be one. So, Moon Knight has 4 different personalities. We already know about Mark Spector, and we know about Moon Knight. Who are the other 2 personalities? Well, the third personality is just like Bruce Wayne. But Moon Knight has Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant is a Hollywood elite producer who basically funds all of Moon Knight's expeditions. He gives him, all the cool tools that the Batman has. Moon Knight has very similar gadgets, just like that. Now, Moon Knight decided that he needed to be able to get a little bit more ground level intel. So he invented the cab driver, Jake Lockley, who from the trailer seems to be the heavy British accent, because that wasn't very proper English, if you may say, so it seems as though that's going to be Jake Lockley. Now, his voice will change per character, and we even hear that deep Batman-like voice. I'm going to guess that's going to be Moon Knight right there, where he says the voice inside you is tearing you apart, right? That is going to be Moon Knight himself talking to Mark Spector. So where exactly did these personalities come from? There are a few different versions and theories of Moon Knight. The first and most popular is that Mark Spector created these three personalities, and that Moon Knight obviously was added to him by Kanchu. And then he couldn't balance the life of all four of these personalities, so it eventually caused his brain to split and him to develop dissociative personality disorder, and he actually kind of created it himself. The second theory is that because Kanchu himself has four different entities that he can channel, that him being inside of Mark Spector is actually causing Spector to snap, and his brain can't handle it. And so, in the comics, when Kanchu has abandoned Mark Spector, his personality disorders have actually gotten better, and he has gotten them under control, so that's what makes people believe that Kanchu is really causing the personality split. The third theory is that Mark Spector actually never met Kanchu, and that he has multiple personalities and he's had them this entire time. And he actually only has powers because he truly believes that he met Kanchu. Now, this is not so different from the movie Split, where we see James McAvoy character develop the Beast, who has all these strengths and powers because he actually believes that he is the Beast. One thing is for sure, he definitely has multiple personalities. And as you can see from the trailer, where he's standing around all these quote-unquote bad guys knocked to the ground, he's looking very confused. This is most likely because Moon Knight took over. He took the light, as they would say in Split, and he fought all these guys. And then Mark Spector, one of the other characters, came back and had no clue what had just happened. In another clip, it looks as if Spector had been attacked. Everything in the room was pretty destroyed. All the mirrors were broken, and he looked pretty beat up. But I don't believe anybody attacked him but himself. There's going to be an inner dialogue conflict between the four personalities, what's right and what's wrong. And it looks as if he had punished himself, fought himself. That's why the mirrors had been cracked. So what are Moon Knight's powers? Well, in his initial contact with Kanchu, it's believed that Spector received a superhuman boost that granted him enhanced reflexes, durability, and strength. Well, the outer limits of his abilities depend really on the phases of the moon. Obviously, with the full moon, he's a lot more powerful, and as the moon starts to disappear, he loses more and more powers. Now, the line between the superpowered and what Spector has become is really blurred. So we're not really sure what are his powers and what's Kanchu channeling through him. In one of the comics, he caught Thor's hammer, and he even stole Doctor Strange's magic to return to Kanchu. So that just kind of shows you how powerful he can be. But even without Kanchu, Spector is an expert hand-to-hand combat. He's an ex-Marine, ex-CIA operator, and he's even a master detective. His work as Lockley really shows his abilities to investigate things and find out details. And plus, who needs superpowers just like Batman when you have access to all the advanced weaponry like the Golden Ankus, the Scarab darts, grapples, and an actual moon copter? Now, he has his own moonerang that is just like the Batarang. So, we can start to see a lot of similarities between Moon Knight and Batman. So, other than the superheroes, who is Mark Spector's people? Well, remember that girl Marlene he saved? They develop a love relationship. She kind of gives herself credit for creating Moon Knight by being a part of the whole thing. So she knows what's going on, and you'll see her along with the story. Now, he does have a best friend, Jean-Paul Duchamp, a.k.a. Frenchie. You can guess why they call him Frenchie. He is French. They met each other back in their fighting days, and they had a lot of things in common, so it kind of pulled them together. Frenchie is actually his getaway driver for Moon Knight's first mission. So I'm sure we're going to see a ton of Frenchie in this series. Now, we know that Ethan Hawke has been confirmed to be the main villain, but who could he possibly be? Now, there's two different main villains that I think we're going to see in this series. One is going to be the Sun King. Now, the Sun King is basically the opposite of the Moon King. He's another god, and he basically is a living entity of the sun god, okay? And he is a little bit more insane, just like Spectre. He can't really handle the power that's been given to him. So he actually gets institutionalized in Ravencroft Institute, which we saw earlier this year from Carnage. So he's going to be a little bit crazy, a little bit violent, very similar to Carnage in that aspect. Now, he's in there, he decides to be obsessed with Egyptian math and the legend of the Egyptian gods, and that's where he ends up meeting the sun god, who helps him break out and becomes the mortal enemy of Moon Knight. Now, Raul Bushman is a character that never seems to go away. He kind of comes back after the initial time that he kills Mark Spector, and they fight time and time again. So this could be another character that Ethan Hawke could represent. But Ethan Hawke did just go on and get interviewed by Seth Meyers, and in that he looked very scary. He had longer hair, he was a little bit thinner, and he basically said that he had based his character off the cult leader David Koresh. So this means he's most likely going to be playing the Sun King, because the Sun King does have a massive cult following, and so it only makes sense for him to play the Sun King, his mortal enemy. Guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.